Novel American-Born Chinese, published by author Jinlun Yang. The storylines presented in the novel intertwine to convey the themes of one's struggle for self-acceptance in the face of cultural diversity. Through the parallel journeys of Jin Wang, the Monkey King, and Chin Ki, Jinlun Yang conveys his message about identity and belonging by showing how stereotypes and expectations pressure immigrants to deny their heritage. Each storyline reveals a common sense of diffidence and inner insecurity and shame about one's identity that drives the characters to hide their true selves. Through the interconnected stories of Jin Wang, the Monkey King, and Chin Ki, Yang explores the painful effects of assimilation and self-acceptance, conveying the message that true identity comes only when individuals embrace both their cultural roots and their American identity. The author portrays psychological, emotional, and physical change throughout the novel, being a common denominator throughout all the intertwined series. A way that this was portrayed throughout the novel was acknowledged in Monkey King's story. Jin Yang demonstrates this by showing how Monkey King changes from a high self-esteem monkey to him lacking in self-confidence. In page 9, panel 5, the Monkey King embraces his identity rather than portraying himself as just a monkey with no value and no morality. Panel states he established his kingdom, and monkeys from the four corners of the world flock to him, showing his creation of kingdom as an ego-driven ideology. The medium long shot emphasizes him standing above others, highlighting his authority, while the monkeys below him symbolize loyalty and reinforce his dominance. Yet this external display of power masks his internal insecurity, marking the start of his psychological change. This contrast between outward confidence and inner conflict mirrors the struggle of hiding one's true identity in a society that socially and culturally rejects difference. Monkey King's self-esteem was demolished when, in page 14, panel 1, the guard says, "You haven't any shoes," marking the beginning of his physical change. This motif reappears on page 55 when he makes other monkeys wear shoes to conform. It generally symbolizes his desire for inclusion and belonging, wanting to be more than just a monkey, not to be seen as uncultured and unsophisticated, reflecting his attempt to no longer be the only one excluded, whilst showing how conformity can be used to navigate social expectations and assert acceptance within the so-called American society. Page 20, panel 2 and 3, marks his acceptance of that he is not normal. It quotes, "When he entered his royal chamber, the thick smell of monkey fur greeted him. He'd never noticed it before." It shows how he came to his realization that he is a monkey, though not in a positive way, embracing it. As he said in panel 3, he stayed awake for the rest of the night, thinking of ways he could get rid of it, showing that he wants to put his heritage culture to an end through this series. This shows and backs up the theory of how his low confidence represents the pain of assimilation, reinforcing Yang's overall message that true self-acceptance comes from embracing who you truly are. In the next storyline, we meet Jin Wang, a character that connects to Monkey King through different aspects of his personality, portraying psychological, emotional, physical change and similar concepts, but expressed through distinct visual techniques and narrative techniques characterizing Jin Wang. Emotional change that was vividly depicted throughout this series would be shown in page 37, chapter 2, panels 1 to 5. In this page, Wei Chen approaches Jin Wang with high hopes of forming a connection through their shared heritage and culture. The panel highlights Jin's surprised facial reaction using graphic weight. It is also a close-up shot, panel being the focal point of the scene. This visual emphasis symbolizes Jin's inner emotional conflict as he wrestles between wanting to belong and feeling ashamed of his identity. The contrast between Wei Chen's open, friendly gesture and Jin's hesitant reaction reflects his emotional discomfort and self-doubt, which emphasizes the tension between the acceptance and internalized insecurity that shapes his character development, linking to the emotional aspect. On to physical aspects. In page 198, it vividly explores Jin's internal conflict through a physical perspective by showing Jin as a stereotypical American being Danny, as a symbolic change that explores Jin's alter ego, as it shows deep self-rejection and desire to assimilate a person to another version of himself that would contrast with the so-called American society, linking to the external conflict when Jin was exposed to racial comments and bullying, which played a part towards his inner conflict, resulting in rejection of part of his conjuration layers of his identity. Furthermore, an external conflict that led to psychological change can be shown in page 179, panel 4 and 5. Panel 5 demonstrates that the mode of isolation, this is visually represented as he looks small and alone. This was put at the bottom to represent his feelings of exclusion and insecurity. The external conflict comes from Greg's comment about who Amelia should hang out with, implying Jin isn't good enough for her to hang out with. Shown in panel 5 in the 5th panel, a visual technique would be the background color. It shifts from a lighter blue to a duller blue, contrasting with the other panels. This reflects Jin's emotional hurt and adds on to his growing self-doubt. The angle being a long shot keeps Jin at a distance, representing to the audience his isolation and the impact of the rejection on his self-image, creating a sense of presence for the audience. Chin Ki goes through psychological, emotional, and physical change. Chin Ki symbolizes the stereotypes and internal shame that Jin feels towards his identity. On page 48, being a full shot and graphic weight panel, the author uses satire as the visual technique to utilize Chin Ki's obnoxious appearance, being his slanted eyes, yellow-tinted skin, and traditional Chinese clothing, embodying Western distorted portrayals and portraying stereotypical Chinese traits that were often mocked and not accepted in American society. In this panel, he also says "Haro America." This exaggerative accent and overall expression externalizes how society mocks and devalues the general Chinese culture. This shows the psychological pressure to be proud of their heritage. In an emotional aspect, on page 205, Danny says to Chinky in panel 1, I want you to pack up and go back to where you came from. This scene shows his anger and his desire to distance himself from Chinky's presence, as he's a constant reminder of his Chinese roots. This shows the emotional burden of trying to repress one's cultural identity to fit into a society. A physical change was represented on page 213, panel 3, when Chinky transformed into the Monkey King, visually showing Jin's internalized shame and the turning of his psychological conflict into a physical form representing his alter ego. Through the intertwining parables of the Monkey King, Jin, Wang, and Chinky, Yang explores the identity and assimilation through transformation, alienation, and acceptance. The Monkey King's mythological journey externalizes internal conflict. Jin Wang's realistic story reveals the psychological toll of cultural dissonance, and Chinky's satire exposes racial stereotyping through exaggeration and sarcasm. By using these contrasting narratives and visual styles throughout the intertwined series, Yang presents assimilation not as a single experience but as a resolution to self-rejection, emphasizing that identity is reclaimed, embracing one's dual cultural self. Linking back to what I said in my thesis, being Yang explores the painful effects of assimilation and self-acceptance, conveying the message that true identity comes only when individuals embrace both their cultural roots and American identity.